Welcome, everyone, to a deep dive into the surprising, often counterintuitive power of relationships. Today, we're unpacking some really invaluable insights from Never Eat Alone, the expanded and updated version. It's a source that, truly reframes how we think about connection, networking, and, well, ultimately, success. Our mission today. To pull out the most important nuggets of knowledge, those surprising facts, maybe some transformative mindsets, that will basically serve as a shortcut for you to being truly well-informed in this whole art of building meaningful human connections. And forget what you think you know about traditional networking, okay? This is really about a profound shift in mindset, one that could genuinely transform your entire life. Prepare to discover how authentic connection isn't just some business skill, but, as the book strongly suggests, maybe the very fabric of our existence. So let's jump right in. The very first big idea that just leaps off the page is this almost like philosophical belief that relationships are all there is. The author states it really emphatically.
Yeah.
Everything in the universe only exists because it is in relationship to everything else. Nothing exists in isolation. And then he says we have to stop pretending we're individuals that can go it alone. That's a powerful opening. He then shares this personal aha moment, right? From his overwhelmed first year at Harvard Business School. He realized pretty quickly that while loads of his peers had, top-tier financial expertise, they completely lacked the crucial skills for actually fostering and building relationships. And he challenged that common misperception, the idea that actively building relationships is just schmoozing. He contrasted it with the genuine sort of unscore-kept friendships he saw on the golf course, where people just helped each other because, well, they cared. This really sets the stage, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. And what's fascinating here, I think, is how the source immediately redefines what we even mean by networking. It's not about manipulation, not quid pro quo. It's explicitly about finding ways to make other people more successful and working hard to give more than you get. Now, if you truly give without keeping score, how does that fundamentally transform the dynamic, not just for them, but for you? It almost sounds, well, utopian in a world that often feels driven by quid pro quo.
I think that's the core challenge, isn't it? Our ingrained instinct is often to track who owes us,
Yeah.
But the book seems to push right past that. What's maybe the biggest hurdle you see listeners facing with this whole give first, never keep score mentality, and how does the book help overcome it?
That's a crucial point. And the source addresses this directly. It states really clearly, the currency of real networking is not greed, but generosity. It emphasizes it's better to give before you receive and never keep score. But the book even illustrates this with an anecdote, right? About someone who flatly refused an introduction just to save their equity for themselves. Such a stark contrast. And this give first philosophy, it's also cleverly connected to what the book calls the social era. Just like social networking sites become more valuable with more users, so does your personal network. It makes sense. The book introduces this concept of disciplined dreamers, people like Michael Dell, driven by a clear mission, his flagpole ambition, and then rigorously setting goals around it. So this generosity, it turns out, it's actually a strategic choice. You'll also learn about a concrete tool the author developed, the Relationship Action Plan, or RAP. This plan helps you set specific, believable, challenging goals for your connections. It's not just about identifying key people who can support your mission, but crucially, it reinforces approaching them with that spirit of generosity. Like Jamie's story redefining her career path from, a stifled academic to passionately teaching kids, all through this generous process.
Okay, so we've laid the groundwork with the give first mindset. But how do we actually translate that into tangible actions, everyday interactions? That's where the book really seems to shine, offering these practical strategies. It starts with serious preparation. Because, as Robert H. Schiller famously said, spectacular achievement is always preceded by spectacular preparation. The book's do your homework strategy. It involves thoroughly researching contacts, their hobbies, challenges, goals, both professional and personal. The author apparently even prepared one-page synopses on people. And he openly shares that he mentions his research because, well, inevitably people are flattered. He recalls connecting with a CEO by referencing her marathon training. That instantly broke the ice, showed genuine interest. It's about more than just facts, right?
Exactly. If we connect this to the bigger picture, effective preparation isn't just about gathering facts. It's about finding genuine common ground, demonstrating respect. It's truly seeing the other person, which then leads to the next challenge. How do you manage all that info, turn it into actual steps for outreach without getting, totally overwhelmed? Well, the source details take names. It advocates for organized contact management databases, mobile apps, and especially LinkedIn. It calls LinkedIn the holy grail of networking because it can map entire industries, shared connections. The author actually attributes the early success of his company, Yaya, to diligently maintaining lists like these. And beyond organization, the book gives tactical advice for warming the cold call. You're advised to be persistent, strategic, calling at unusual times like 8:00 a.m. or maybe 6:30 p.m. when busy people might actually pick up their own phone. He recounts his own persistence reaching surge from Sony, even leaving voicemails that created a sense of optimism and gentle pressure. And once you do get someone on the phone, state your value proposition clearly. Within 30 seconds, use open-ended questions. There's an example with Phil Knight, where the author avoided demanding a specific meeting, left it open, avoided unnecessary obligations. And a critical piece of advice, this goes right back to our core principle, don't schmooze. Instead, have something to say and say it with passion. Make sure you have something to offer when you speak and offer it with sincerity. Oh, and for those administrative assistants, the gatekeepers. You learn the art of managing the gatekeepers artfully, turning them into allies through respect, humor, compassion. He illustrates it with his own positive experience with his assistant, Mary.
Okay, so this all boils down to building those crucial connections in like every aspect of your life. It's not just about what you do in formal settings, right? But how you extend your reach into everyday life. This is where never eat alone really comes alive. The principle is pretty simple. Invisibility is a fate far worse than failure. You should always be reaching out, breakfast, lunch, dinner. The author shares this clever strategy, calls it cloning dinners, inviting multiple people who could benefit from knowing each other, maximizes efficiency, fosters creative input. It's kind of a genius way to leverage your time, actually. And you discover the immense power of share your passions. Because passion, well, it's contagious. It naturally draws people to you. The source highlights how shared experiences outside the office, intimate dinners, strenuous workouts, even things like Kickstarter campaigns, they let people loosen up, reveal more of themselves. It feels less like work, more like genuine human interaction, which I think is absolutely key.
It absolutely is about authenticity. What's fascinating here is the emphasis on creating environments where genuine connection can actually flourish. This isn't just about efficiency. It's about building real rapport. And once you've made a connection, the book really stresses that follow-up is the key to success in any field. It's called the hammer and nails of your networking toolkit. And it's a practice so many people overlook, sadly. The advice: follow up within 12 to 24 hours. Cite specific details from the conversation, jog their memory. For business meetings, you're encouraged to reiterate commitments in writing. Proactively arrange a second follow-up meeting. And this diligent follow-up isn't just for one-on-ones. It also applies to larger settings, where you can become what the author calls a conference commando. Beyond the official agenda, being a commando means strategically knowing who's attending. Organizing your own informal conferences within a conference, like private dinners or discussions. Even inviting anchor tenants, influential people, to attract other desirable guests. This proactive approach, it even extends to becoming a speaker, which is described as one of the easiest and most effective ways to get yourself, your business, and your ideas seen, heard of, and remembered. The example of Susan Cain, author of Quiet. It shows how public speaking can be a really high-impact way, even for introverts, to expand their network and make an impact. You're encouraged to establish yourself as an information hub at events. Go beyond the brochure, identify valuable info trade gossip, restaurant tips, and share it generously. Ultimately, you learn to avoid common pitfalls like the smarmy eye garter, you know the type, only seeks out important people, or the card dispenser masser. Instead, you aim to embody the warmth and sincerity of, say, a Bill Clinton.
Now let's explore an idea that really expands our notion of connections. This surprising power of weak ties. We often hear about 6 degrees of separation, right? But the source updates that. A 2011 Facebook study put it at 4.74 degrees, and LinkedIn is built on just 3. So you're always closer than you think. This leads directly into connecting with connectors, and it highlights a truly surprising finding. It's not necessarily strong contacts like family and close friends that prove the most powerful. To the contrary, often the most important people in our network are those who are acquaintances. Weak ties.
Yeah, it's based on Granovetter's research and Milgram's study, too, which found most letters in a chain pass through just a few superconnectors.
Right. And the source identifies specific professions where these connectors often congregate, like headhunters, who you can help by offering your network, by the way. Lobbyists, too, they appreciate help with events or referrals. Public relations people your way into the media world, like Alana Weiss, introducing the author to Ariana Huffington. And we get this incredible Connectors Hall of Fame profile of Paul Revere. an 18th century silversmith who was a master connector, leveraging his diverse club memberships, business dealings,
Yeah.
all to spread crucial info on his famous ride. It really makes you rethink who you should be connecting with, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. And connecting this to the bigger picture, it's not just who you know, but how you activate those connections. And maybe even more importantly, how you expand your own reach into new circles. So this raises an important question for you, the listener. How do you practically cultivate these diverse relationships? Make them truly meaningful in your own life. The book highlights expanding your circle as key. And a Stanford Business School study found that verbal fluency, that ability to confidently converse with pretty much anyone, was the common trait among their most successful alumni. And here's where it gets really counterintuitive again. You'll discover that vulnerability, yes, vulnerability is one of the most underappreciated assets in business today. Power, in what the author calls this open source society, it comes from sharing information, not hoarding it. He shares a compelling anecdote about turning a really dull dinner with someone named Sherry into a deeply meaningful connection, simply by revealing his own struggles. The source reminds you your uniqueness is your power, and that we are all born with innate winning traits to be a masterful small talker. Dale Carnegie, profiled as a connector, showed how overcoming that fear of speaking leads directly to self-confidence. The book also points to 3 universal topics for deep connection: health, wealth, and children. Makes sense. It gives examples, giving advice on diet or jobs, connecting people facing similar challenges, like the author introducing a friend to someone else passionate about finding a cancer cure, or leveraging your network to help others find employment, like Adam Grant, who apparently gives so strategically that the entire world feels like it owes him a favor. Wow. Then there's this fascinating concept, social arbitrage, making yourself indispensable by connecting people from different parts of your life who can benefit each other. He illustrates it helping Hank Birnbaum of High Sierra Bags. And research by Ron Burt shows managers who bridge different worlds. They get paid better, promoted faster. This brings us back to knowledge itself, presented as a valuable currency in social arbitrage, accessible to everyone. And to maintain these connections, the source gives practical pinging guidelines, like an initial 3 modes of communication for recognition: monthly pings for developing contacts, 2 out-of-office face-to-face meetings for actual friendship, and using social media for those fringe connections. You learn how to categorize your network: personal, customers, prospects, important business associates, aspirational contacts, and segment lists by geography, industry, etc. for efficient outreach. Social media gets highlighted as a powerful tool for pinging, but, with a warning against spamming. Emphasis on relevance, intimacy, recalling that heartwarming story of Kent's remembered birthday. Finally, it teaches you to expand your circle at dinner parties, strategically inviting anchor tenants, influential people to attract others, mixing guests who don't know each other but share interests. The author's former business manager, Mark Ramsey, is a great example, successfully hosting simple, fun dinner parties that actually generated new clients.
Okay, so we've explored the mindset, the practical steps for building connections. Now let's turn to how that shifts what it means to be successful in our modern world, moving from individual achievement to collective connection. This ties directly into creating and sharing valuable content, which can truly make you, as the book puts it, the king of content. The Force explains that building trust online, it requires revealing your humanity in bits and bytes. Think of Chris Hadfield, the Canadian astronaut. He humanized the ISS experience, right? Tweeting about crying in space, performing David Bowie, earned him millions of followers, even a retweet from Bowie himself. Meanwhile, other astronauts on the same station remain largely unknown. Authenticity and vulnerability are key in content creation. The author cites James Altucher, whose blog traffic apparently skyrocketed when he started being honest about fears, worries, failures, leading to posts about enormous failures becoming his most popular. Things like, "I want my kids to be drug addicts," or "I'm completely humiliated by yoga." Pretty raw stuff. You're encouraged to co-create content, constantly asking, how can I be helpful to people? Engaging them in the process. The power of visuals in social media posts is also emphasized, for their emotional punch. And the source stresses identity accountability, projecting a consistent you, admitting mistakes when you mess up, and the supreme value of candor. Josh Wilson's essay, "I will not read your #1% script." It was candid, alienated some, but attracted many more. A prime example of how saying what no one else will can powerfully distinguish your brand. It's definitely a bold strategy for building visibility.
It truly is. And what's fascinating here is how this content, it becomes the guiding star of your personal brand, attracting people and opportunities to you. If we connect this to the bigger picture, it suggests that success in this connected age isn't just about doing good work, but about ensuring that work and your unique self is actually seen and understood. So in a world that's just saturated with information, how does the book suggest we actually cut through the noise, achieve this vital visibility?
Yeah, that's the million-dollar question for so many people, myself included sometimes. How do you get seen without just resorting to, shouting the loudest?
Well, it comes down to cultivating your personal brand, which the book defines by your expertise and your unique humanity, aka GVAC. Generosity, vulnerability, accountability, candor. This blend provides a credible, distinctive, trustworthy identity that naturally attracts more people to you. Branding guru Tom Peters encourages you to create your own micro-equivalent of the Nike swoosh and be the CEO of your own life. Raise hell. I love that. The author shares his own experience at Deloitte, intentionally taking on unpopular projects, emailing ideas daily to his boss and his boss's boss, transforming his brand from anonymous number cruncher to a slightly famous difference maker. The book asserts that you are your own best PR representative. The source notes most significant articles about the author actually came from his personal contacts, not just PR firms. Interesting. Strategies for generating buzz include curation, like Upworthy pulling well-performing links and ensuring your content is timely. Like the author rewriting his Wall Street Journal intro each week to align with current news. That takes discipline. Building relationships with journalists before you have a story to pitch is crucial. Be a willing, accessible source. Offer inside scoops like the author did with Tom Stewart of Fortune. And finally, there are countless ways to enhance your professional profile. Moonlighting, internal projects, teaching classes, joining panel discussions. The key is remembering that what they say about you will ultimately determine the value of your brand. And to meet those famous, powerful people. The source suggests joining associations, clubs. It's amazing how accessible people are when we meet them at events that speak to their interests. Ungle, nonprofit boards, participating in sports like golf. The advice is clear. Don't feel like an imposter. You are a star in your own right. And even with social media's rise, conferences remain incredibly powerful for community building, offering that unique blend of formal and informal connection.
This whole approach, it really reshapes what a rich and fulfilling life looks like, doesn't it? It's about more than just getting ahead. It's about actively engineering serendipity, embracing a new definition of balance that actually centers on the people in your life. The source suggests that Fortune prefers the networked mind. Emphasizing that to engineer serendipity means creating a dense network with yourself at the center, constantly getting useful information. Robert Scoble is highlighted as a sensor for tech trends, right? Because VCs seek him out for his immersive learning from just swimming 247 in curated info streams. Incidental encounters, especially through travel, are seen as vital for injecting diversity into your network, because what you see shapes how you change. And it really emphasizes that passion is a possibility engine, generating the energy you need for outreach, for productive interactions. The author actually says you should view manufacturing serendipity as like 30% of your job, and you're urged to make it matter by learning and doing, meaning taking action with your contacts, your data, establishing communities of passion, collaborating on projects. Creativity in business is often nothing more than making connections that everyone else has almost thought of. So you don't have to reinvent the wheel. Just attach it to a new wagon. I like that analogy. A powerful idea presented is that there's no better way to learn something and become an expert at it than to have to teach it. This applies to developing a niche, understanding new tech. And finally, the source underscores the enduring power of storytelling, which can energize a diverse swath of people into action, reminding you that few talents are more important to managerial success than knowing how to tell a good story. It really feels like a holistic approach to living.
It is indeed. And if we connect all this to the bigger picture, all these strategies, they point to a profound reorientation of how we live and work. It really challenges those traditional notions of the self-made person and even our understanding of work-life balance. This raises, I think, an important question for all of us. What does truly living a connected life mean? And how does it lead to genuine happiness, maybe beyond those conventional metrics? The source actually begins this final section with a really powerful quote from the Dalai Lama. Most of our happiness arises in the context of our relationships with others, signaling a clear shift from rugged individualism towards community and alliances in our increasingly digital, interdependent world. The author shares a pivotal personal moment from a Vipassana meditation retreat, where he gained clarity, reevaluated his whole pursuit of prestige and money, and fundamentally refocused on relationships by asking deep questions like, what is your passion and how can you make a difference? Life is beautifully described not as some linear quest, but as a quilt, where young lovers seek perfection. Old lovers sew shreds together and see beauty in the multiplicity of patches. Lovely. There's no score to keep when abundance just leads to even more abundance. And the source directly confronts the myth of balance as some rigid equation. Arguing the problem isn't what you're working on, but whom you're working with. That's insightful. The answer to feeling out of control isn't to simplify or compartmentalize, but to realize, as the author puts it, I gotta get a life filled with people I love. And while the author lives by his demanding Ferrazzi time, he assures you, you don't have to do it my way. You can build connections one small bite at a time. Ultimately, he concludes, we all live one life, and that life is all about the people we live it with. Powerful stuff.
Wow. This deep dive has truly transformed my understanding, I think, of what it means to build meaningful connections. It's really not just about networking or even just a career strategy, is it? It's about a generous, authentic approach to every single interaction that really redefines success and happiness.
Absolutely. And maybe consider this as we wrap up. The source tells us there is no score to keep when abundance leads to even more abundance. So, reflect on how embracing that mindset, giving before receiving, genuinely, without expectation, how might that unlock unexpected opportunities? Deepen your relationships in ways you maybe haven't yet imagined. What's one specific, small step you can take today, maybe even right after listening, to give more generously within your own network? And just ponder how that small act might ripple outwards into your life.